When people talk about the greatest World Finals, you hear the obvious ones, like World Finals 9 or World Finals 18, even some personal favorites like World Finals 13, or one of my all-time favorites, World Finals 7. But I think 2010's edition gave us a hidden gem that is narrowly set in the back of our minds for years, and today is the day I bring it to the forefront. So over the last few days, I sat down and rewatched World Finals 11, which I've given it the unofficial nickname as the most underrated World Finals in Monster Jam history.
And he did it near the end of bonus time.
He's gonna get out of it.
Oh my, that's phenomenal.
He's got it.
Steve Sims upsets Apple.
Oh,
he's in
man,
trouble.
hang on.
But so is David. David did not put him away. MC is having a... Whoa, you gotta be kidding me.
Some of you might be asking, well, how exactly is it underrated, and why not nearly as many people don't even talk about it being so good? Well, I've put together 6 reasons that perfectly sum up why this event was so good. And with explaining any story, it's important first to mention who took part and where this event took place. Any World Finals that's held in Vegas usually ranks above a different location. What makes World Finals 11 stand out over, say, 7 or 13? 2 things, mainly. The track and the lineup. The track was a mixture of very different, yet very similar to previous World Finals tracks. The left side sat a huge container jump and a big giant double, similar to 2009's track. In the middle sat 2 racing lanes, which would be steepened in freestyle and extra cars being placed on top, and a center jump akin to one from World Finals 9. The right side featured a small jump with cars on the side and a smooth ramp, meant for big air and combos, and behind that was the mother of all jumps that totally wouldn't cause issues later on.
Now he's in trouble.
Down the end of the track was a big van jump, and for freestyle, a box van was added for extra carnage. And with a track as awesome as this, the lineup was expected to be just as strong. The lineup was a perfect blend between newcomers, rising stars, veterans of the sport, and in the case of one driver, had not even competed in the event for over 5 years. But it's one thing to say that the lineup or track is good, and either not accounting for or disregarding what took place on said battlegrounds. If the track or lineup was anything to judge the event by, then the show itself would be a night to remember. The Racing Championship is something I always look forward to for an upcoming Monster Jam show, especially the World Finals. The action from both qualifying and especially racing was truly unforgettable. The top 5 trucks were separated by 3/100ths of a second. Having the top 5 in such close range with the exact same times is almost unheard of today, but in fact led to one of the most exciting racing competitions of all time. Shocking upsets, close races, and just insanely great racing. Round 1 was full of photo finishes, round 2 was just really solid racing, and the night itself was just filled with insane and memorable moments. The round 3 race between Mentz and Bradshaw couldn't prove this more true, as Mentz tries to swing the truck into the turn too early. Mentz knew he was beat, but he somehow manages to crack the whip and finish ahead of David Bradshaw. And again, although not quite as much in the semi-finals against Lizzie Wink in Blue Thunder. But great racing wasn't the only thing that made the 11th edition of the World Racing Championship so entertaining, because some drivers exited the bracket with a whole lot of work to do.
Wow. Photo is out. Look at, hang on. Oh, he's in trouble.
Hang on. Hang on.
Not again. Oh my.
It's not uncommon to see crashes in the racing competition. Some drivers make simple mistakes, pushing their trucks to the absolute limits for a chance that they will become a world champion. But I think it's completely fair to say that no year was anything like the madness that was World Finals 11. In just the 3rd race of the night, Medusa had landed anything but straight, and that caused her to roll over. However, she did manage to save it. That race would set the precedent for the rest of the night, because at the end of the night, a total of 4 other crashes would take place in the racing competition. Alex Blackwell would crash in the race directly after Medusa's, landing cockeyed and was sent straight into the container jump, doing almost a complete barrel roll in the process. The next crash was almost completely identical to Blackwell's, only this time Adam Anderson would finish his race and finish it on all 4 tires. Unfortunately for him though, this stopped him from advancing on through the bracket, as Hartsock would advance to round 3. And if you thought the left lane was cursed, don't worry, because David Smith and King Crunch and Mark McDonald and El Toro Loco would put that theory to rest, as they both suffered catastrophic damage that saw them not only out of the World Racing Championship, but out of the World Freestyle Championship as well. But I've yet to mention the conclusion of the Racing Championship, and that was done for good reason. The ongoing rivalry between Dennis Anderson and Tom Meents was one of the greatest parts of Monster Jam back in its glory days, and that edition's World Championship couldn't have put them in a better spot. Meents was 2nd fastest, and Anderson was 5th fastest, which placed them on opposite sides of the bracket. To this day, they have only faced off 4 times in World Finals racing, excluding the moment we're about to talk about. They faced off at World Finals 3 with Meents coming out on top, World Finals 7 with Anderson coming out on top, and World Finals 17 with Meents coming out on top. Out of those 3 moments, none of them were the decider for the championship or even the championship race itself. That all changed at World Finals 11. Both had very different strategies. Anderson had stuck with his preferred lane in rounds 2 and 3, but put McDonald in a lane that he was not familiar in the semi-finals, but in fairness, neither was Anderson. It has been theorized that Anderson was playing mind games and as such led to the wreck that followed the end of Mark McDonald's race. Meents' tactic we had already spoke about. In 2 instances, he had cracked the whip with his insane horsepower, coming from behind and snatching a race win. But that wouldn't work against Anderson, and in Meents' best efforts, it would be Anderson coming out on top to claim his 4th and final World Championship. With 1 championship decided, it was time to crown another champion in everyone's favorite competition, Freestyle.
Oh yeah, and the big wow moments.
Now he's going to air it out.
He's going to get himself in trouble there. Wow. He's walking off of that hot seat. Oh no, he's not going to do it, Scott.
Only another move or 2 are going to count for scores. So why not do that?
By far, the biggest factor for people determining which World Finals is best is Freestyle. And while I would argue it's not of the caliber of World Finals 18 or 9, or even 13, it was still very enjoyable and such a fun competition to watch. From the beginning of the show, it was clear that the track would be a truck-eating machine, claiming victim to many runs in the beginning of the event, and it continued throughout the night. And while to some it was their worst nightmare, for others it couldn't have been better. Great saves were aplenty, wow moments that still remain as some of the most iconic and nostalgic moments in Monster Jam history, crazy crashes galore, and just all around great freestyles. From Bulhan to Bradshaw, Sims to Souza, Meents to Huff Faker, the list goes on and on and on. Of course, no one conquered the track more so than Charlie Porkin in Monster Mart, who earned the 2nd highest score in the history of the Monster Jam World Finals. One final factor that I wanted to focus on was the champions, the 2 men who won this event. And with the exception of World Finals 9 or 7, I couldn't think of a better cohort of champions than Dennis Anderson and Charlie Porkin. Anderson defeating Meents for the championship in racing, and Porkin finally earning himself a world championship, was the most fitting end for an event that cannot be denied as one of the all-time greats. When you have a track as big as 2010, a field of drivers more stacked than a deck of cards, a racing and freestyle competition so intense that the word intense's official dictionary entry should be replaced with see World Finals 11. How can this event not be amongst the best? So, If you're ever bored and wanting something to do, whether you've never seen Monster Jam before, or maybe you're like me, getting ready for in about 4 days time to be going on a flight to go watch some live Monster Jam action, you should watch Monster Jam World Finals 11. Don't skip through it, don't even watch highlights. Go to YouTube, watch the videos, watch a full show, and watch the whole event in its entirety, because you will get to relive the most underrated and most underappreciated World Finals in history. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon with some more Monster Truck content.